Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Elise. I'm a self-taught sewer. I sew all types of clothes and I make the patterns and I share sewing tutorials and pattern tutorials on my Instagram and TikTok account. Today I wanted to make a bit of a longer video because I got to try out two patterns from Wissew. Wissew is a platform for fashion designers to sell and distribute their patterns. So most of the patterns you'll see on their site are from independent pattern designers, which is great for sewing enthusiasts like me who can then go on their site and buy their patterns. So when you go on their site, everything is very easy. You can click here for the sewing patterns and then you will first thing see their own collection of sewing patterns. And then if you scroll down, you will start to see the patterns from the independent fashion and pattern designers. I got to try out two patterns from them. The first is the Diva dress, which is actually from their own collection, and I'm actually wearing it right now. So hold on, let me show you guys. This is how the dress turned out. It was just such an easy pattern to make. They have a really good description and tutorial both in English and French for how to make this dress. I can really recommend this pattern if you're a sewing beginner or intermediate sewer. The second pattern I tried out was the Ari dress. This is from an independent designer called Pasta Couture. When I saw the Ari dress, I just knew I had to make this pattern because it is absolutely stunning. The only challenge is that the pattern itself is only in French. I do not speak French, so it was a bit of a challenge to make this dress. I filmed every step of the process and I wanted to share it with you guys so you can also make the gorgeous Ari dress from Pasta Couture. I want to mention this is by no means the step-by-step guide for how to do it or any tutorial. The video will illustrate how I did it and the way it can be done. So I'm really hoping that this video will be helpful, and let's get started on the Ari dress. So I like to cut out the pattern in the largest size it has and then trace my size onto baking paper or tracing paper in case I need to go up or down in a size or if I want to make it for someone else. I actually had to make the back piece a bit shorter so it fit the front piece panel. I don't know why it was like that, but I had to adjust it. So I actually had to make the skirt a bit shorter than I wanted to because I didn't have enough fabric. And I'm ironing my fabric before I cut out the pattern pieces. I'm cutting out all the pattern pieces. For the skirt, it is the medium panel piece that is for the back. You cut off two out of those. And for the front of the skirt, you have the large piece and then the smaller piece. The skirt has a split in the front, so I made sure to have a bit of extra overlap to make the split look nice in the front here. So you can see there's a bit of overlap here. And for the bodice, I cut out enough pieces to have an outside fabric and a lining fabric. The directions on the fabric is a bit confusing because to make 4 straps you had to cut out 8 pieces, and to make 2 ruffle details in the front you had to cut out 4 strips. These are the outside fabric pieces for the bodice. I cut out this times 2 because I needed lining fabric too. And as I said, 8 of these ones. To sew the straps and ruffles, I just sew them right sides together like this. I make a few clippings on the corners of the straps here. This is to make sure it lays a bit flatter and nicer when it's turned right side out. And then I'm just turning all the straps right side out. After I turn the straps right side out, I top stitch all the straps to make it look a bit nicer. This is how the strap looks when it's top stitched. Personally, I prefer this look. And with the 4 rectangular strips that make up the ruffle details in the fronts, I fold it together and then sew the sides, and then I fold it over again and just iron it down. Then I'm top stitching this to make it look nice too, and I'm top stitching the part which is close to the fold. Sewing the body was pretty easy. I just sewed all the panels together. To make the ruffle details in the front, I take the strips and sew with the longest stitch length I have, the lower part that isn't top stitched. I sew 2 parallel lines and then I take the threads and drag them like this to make the ruffle details. I pull the threads until both of the strips are the same length when ruffled, and then I'm just ironing them down. I wasn't sure how to place the ruffle details on the bodice, but luckily I got some help from my Instagram friends who voted for the left view, which I also agreed on. By the way, this is not how you should sew the ruffles onto the bodice. They should be pointing downwards. I just did this to see how I wanted to place them. And here I'm just marking where I want the ruffles to end and start. In this view, the ruffles are placed correctly. As you can see, they are pointing downwards. I'm adding the straps to the bodice and I'm making them as well turn downwards. The ruffle and the straps are pointing downwards because they're placed between the lining fabric and the outside fabric, and when it's then turned right side out after, it's going to point upwards. So I just added the lining fabric of the bodice on top of this and pinning it down and then sewing all along the top here. And then I'm just cutting off the excess fabric, and I'm also making a few clippings here so it lays better when it's turned right side out. And this is how it actually looks when it's turned right side out. It lays pretty flat and nice. I'm top stitching all along the top part here, and I'm removing the threads I used to make the ruffles. My fabric was quite thin, so my skirt would have been see-through, so I chose this white fabric, which is in silk satin, to have as a lining fabric. I actually overlooked all the pattern pieces for the skirt to make sure they don't unravel. In this frame you can see the two pattern pieces for the front of the skirt laying right sides together, the small pattern piece on top of the larger panel. Because the dress has a split in the front, I'm sewing the two panels together with quite a lot of overlap, so it's like almost 1 inch seam allowance that I'm sewing. When I sew the two front pieces together, I'm sewing them attached on the sides here to the two back pieces, but I'm actually leaving the skirt open in the back because I'm gonna sew that after when I'm doing the zipper. Here I'm just rolling up the straps to make sure they don't come in the way, and I'm attaching the outer piece of the bodice to the outer skirt, and I do the same thing with the lining of the bodice to the lining of the skirt, as you can see here. After I have sewn the skirt to the bodice, I'm making a few clippings in the seam allowance here, and I'm just ironing it down so it all lays a bit nicer. It might be a bit tricky to see here, but I pinned the outside fabric and the lining fabric together, and I'm making a stitch all along the seam between the bodice and the skirt here. And this is my not so good attempt at inserting a zipper in the back of the dress, and I'm actually sewing these skirt pieces together here in the back. And this is how I did the split. This is not how you should do it, this is just how I did it. It's probably not correct, but I mean, it works, so maybe you want to do this. I used the seam ripper to open the split, and then I folded the seam allowances back under the lining fabrics, as you can see here, and then top stitched it together. And then I just hemmed the skirt, as you can see here, and I actually inserted as well a hook in the back. This is how the dress looks on the inside. And now for the dress, this is how it turned out. I hope this video was helpful for you guys and that you can now make the beautiful Ari dress, which is designed by Pasta Couture, and you can buy it on Wissew. If you guys want to see more sewing videos and sewing tips, you can follow me on social media. My name is Elisa Sew on TikTok and Instagram. Let me know in the comments below if you like this video and if you will be sewing this dress. And if you have any questions or requests for things that I should sew in the future, please don't hesitate to leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching.